Would you like to accelerate your career and reach your full potential in just minutes a day? Welcome to the LEADx Show with New York Times best-selling author and Inc. 500 entrepreneur, Kevin Kruse.
Hey everyone, Kevin Kruse here. Welcome to the weekly wrap-up edition of the LEADx Leadership Show. This is the one where I take my time, I get to rant about miscellaneous stuff, and I answer all of your questions. Today I'm running solo. I'm coming to you from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the US of A. Philadelphia is, of course, the greatest city in the world, home to greats like Ben Franklin, Rocky Balboa, you know him, right? And Joel Embiid. If you're not an NBA basketball fan, then you've got to Google Joel Embiid. We're almost at the end of the year, and I got to be honest, mine was filled with so many great failures. I would rather have had a few more successes, but 12 months of wandering in the wrong direction has finally led us to the promised land, and 2018 is going to be huge for LEADx. We're going to take the LEADx Academy out of the public beta phase and do an official launch really soon. We're launching many new courses in the weeks ahead, and it's in a sort of a modern video style that is just going to blow away the traditional expert talking head lynda.com style of e-learning. And we're working on some top secret things that I can't talk about for probably 6 more months, but it will literally change how people manage and lead. It will be a first in the world. Lately, I've had my head down just on internal stuff. We're raising a seed round of financing from, what they call a friends and family round. But technically, there's no family in this round. It's just friends. I've been recruiting some of our first advisors, and we're getting ready to do 3 big hires. I don't have the roles defined yet, so I don't want people inundating me just yet. But follow me on LinkedIn, Kevin Kruse, or subscribe to our newsletters at leadx.org, kevinkruse.com to hear about when these job openings are announced. So I want to dive in right away to some questions. The first one today comes from Daryl, who left a great review. Thanks, Daryl, and also sent me this question. It says, if you're getting hired for a management position from outside your organization, and a team member over there was also applying for the job, what do you say as the new leader to your now disappointed direct report? So, Daryl, great question. And I actually had a similar situation quite a few years ago. I was selected to be the executive director to turn around this nonprofit organization. And once I got on board, my new board of directors told me that I had beaten out 2 people who were friends of theirs. One was a former board member. I think maybe both of them were. And they basically, they didn't say it in these words, but they said, hey, you got to go, make peace with them and make them, feel part of the organization and maybe throw them some consulting dollars or, work with them in some way. So I just beat these 2 people out, and I needed to go and, make sure they were in a good place and that I could bring them even more into the fold. So, my advice, like what I did in that situation, I didn't put it off. That's just going to fester and make people wonder on both sides of it. So have the conversation as quickly as possible, and be direct, and just say, make sure you ask your new boss about the situation and get some insights into the person who you'll be having this conversation with, and let them know that you've heard great things about them. You're excited to be working with them on the goals of the organization. They've got a great future, and that one of your priorities as a leader on the team is to work with all the team members on their career goals and to help them to realize them. So, it's going to be more awkward for them than for you, and you just kind of addressing it directly, taking it off the table and saying, hey, I hear great things about you. We're going to do some great things together. And I want to know what your, career goals are, not just for the next stepping stone, but several, and how can we work together to make them happen? And The only other advice I'd give, Daryl, is like, I was just working on we've got a new course coming out on making the move from individual contributor to first-time manager. And I was writing about what to do in your first 90 days. And it's really the same anytime you get a new job as a manager. In the first 90 days, you want to set yourself up for success by, having conversations with your boss, like clarify expectations, how will you be evaluated? You want to set yourself up for success personally, like give yourself some mentors or advisors or some allies other than your boss to get perspective in the new job. And then the third group, so there's the boss, there's you, and the third group, it's the team members. And in those first 90 days, it's critical that, start off by giving a lot of positive feedback, not fake, but catch people doing things right, and maybe withhold some of the constructive criticism for a while. Get their ideas before you start offering your own ideas, and learn about them as people. The best thing you can do is you learn the names of their children and their significant other and what they like to do outside of the work. It's going to show that you care about them as people. You do those things right, and you'll have a good relationship, no matter what the situation was before. I got this random email just recently from Cheryl, who was asking about a replay of a live webinar we did back on December 1st. We had an incredible webinar. Mike Vardy, who, I've been called like the king of productivity. I think Mike Vardy is right up there and definitely one of the most unique thinkers. His webinar was called Turbo Boost Your Productivity with Time Theming. And Mike and I, talk a lot and believe a lot in theming your days, your months, your year. Anyway, but if you are interested in this topic, you missed the live webinar. You can, of course, if you're already a member of our newsletter, you'll find out about all of our weekly live webinars. But if you want to get this one, it's in the LEADx Academy archive. All the webinars are in the LEADx Academy, so you can go to leadx.org and sign up for that. Anyway, Cheryl was asking about how she could watch it again because she was picking her 3 focus words for 2018, and she's got 2 words and needs a third. Now, I don't boil my, goals or intention areas into words that change per year, but I think it's a great idea. A lot of people have long goals or a page full of New Year's resolutions, and we all know most of those fail. But by really thinking about areas of improvement, areas of opportunity, for an entire year, I think it's just tremendous. And whether it's just more like a word like adventure, telling yourself to go out and have more crazy fun and get into trouble, or whether it's about launch, and that means you're going to launch your new business, or whether it's no carbs for health, or whatever your words are. I think this is the time of year, right? 2 more weeks until we start 2018. And it's always artificial. In fact, that's one of Mike Vardy's crazy things is he doesn't start his year in January, but you'll have to hear him explain that idea. So anyway, it's a good time of year to be thinking about what are your goals for 2018? What are your priorities? And possibly think about what's your 1 word, what's your 3 words for 2018? And this sounds like I made it up, but literally 5 minutes ago, when I was processing email, an email popped in from a listener named Tony. And he says, I'm about to speak in front of the whole company. For some reason, I am nervous. I'm focusing on things that I've learned by listening to your podcast. Thank you for helping me. And I think that's a tremendous email. Tony, that means a lot just to hear that our work is impacting, having a positive impact on you. That's why we do it. And what I wrote back to Tony, I hit back a real quick reply. I said, Tony, you're the man. Remember, it's hard to be nervous when your heart is on service. And so, I speak a lot and I used to be very nervous. And when you're public speaking and you're nervous, not like excited, that's different. When you're stressed, you got those negative butterflies. It's because you're thinking about yourself. That's your ego. What if I fall down? What if I forget my lines? What if I stumble? What if they ask me a question that I can't answer? So all of these things are, low self-worth questions, like how will they judge me? And you need to flip that around. You need to realize when you take that step on that stage, you are now serving them. It's just, how can I serve them? And I take it down to my goal is to serve one person. Like in a room of 1,000 people, yeah, I hope there's a standing ovation, and it happens every now and then. But my goal is to walk onto that stage and to connect with one person, make a difference in one person's life. And it's not to know everything. It's not to have answers to all their questions. It's not to speak without verbal pauses. I will have ums and ahs. I may fall down on the stage. The slides may go black or the computer's going to break. I don't really care about any of that anymore because I just want to help one person. If I've helped one person, then I'm happy. I'm fine. I can live with that. So Tony, go out there and kill it. So this was another question that came in, and I think I'm going to keep this one anonymous. He says, my team leader tends to be long-winded in staff meetings. His boss is very long-winded and a verbal processor. This leads to what seems to be hours of wasted time as they repeat themselves and have conversations to work through topics where our input is not sought or really appreciated. And what are some ways I can help to influence them to have a separate conversation that doesn't hold up the rest of our team? Are there any other ways to help this situation to become more productive? And so, this is a situation where if you're the boss or you're the facilitator, the assigned facilitator of a meeting, this is just a facilitation issue. You pay attention to when someone's going too far down a rabbit hole or too far off on a tangent or having a conversation that doesn't require everyone else in the room. And that's when you interject as the boss or the facilitator and say, hey, it sounds like you guys are having a great conversation. Do you mind, taking it after this meeting so we can get back on point and just make the best use of everyone else's time? Or can we put this on the parking lot, talk about all the things that affect all of us, and then maybe those of us who don't need to stay can leave, and then we'll pick this topic back up. And that's great facilitation. When it comes to your boss and or your boss's boss, not having a clue, which is horrible, it's tough. I don't know there's a lot, it's tough enough to change ourselves, to change our own behaviors. It's really, really hard to change someone else's behavior, especially when they don't feel the need to change. They're not ready for change. And so you've got three choices. One, get a new job, get a new boss. Two, decide you're going to stay in the situation as is and make the best of it. Like, we can all learn from negative situations. If I am racing somewhere and I'm getting stuck in red light after red light, it can be very triggering, right? The stress goes up and I'm mad and I'm cursing the red light. Or I can be grateful for the red light because it's giving me an opportunity to practice patience or mindfulness or my box breathing, to stay calm. And so, you could say, all right, I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to observe like an anthropologist, like a scientist observing the baboons, in the wild. Look at how they're communicating. What are they doing well? What are they not doing well? How is this derailing? Use it as a chance to observe yourself, to develop patience and mindfulness and breathing. The third option is to say something. And this is a high risk game with low odds of success. If you have high trust, like if you have a really good relationship with your boss, then sure, at the right time, in a moment of privacy and safety, bring it up to him or to her and say, hey, can I give you some feedback about the Monday meeting? Or can I give you some feedback? I've got some ideas on how our team could be more productive. And when they say, oh, sure, then you bring this up and give them, your idea. You bring up the issue. But other than that, the only other thing that you could work is wait for a time of crisis. A team member turns in a report late and it's an opportunity for you to explain that person wasted 4 hours this week in their meeting, that they didn't have to be there. And if your boss would let people out of the meeting when they had side conversations, then you guys would be more productive. So again, those are the opportunities: moment of crisis, moment of high trust and safety. But again, high risk game with low odds of success. It comes down to, not to beat a dead horse on this, but great leaders, a great manager wants to do better. So they're going to want to do 360 surveys on themselves to find out what you guys really think. They're going to ask you, how can I do better? They're going to have an outside coach or an executive coach that's going to challenge them. Where can I do better? But if they're not already in that growth mindset, that self-development mindset, it's really tough to change their behavior. Now, this is a jump cut. We got a question about doing podcasting, because I guess in one of my webinars on how to become a Forbes writer, how do you, like I revealed in a webinar a week ago, like how to write for Forbes Inc. Or there's I gave a list of 150 websites, that are looking for guest writers. And this is the best way to get your message out, to make an impact, to build your brand, and to build a platform that can lead to speaking gigs, book deals, and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I talked about being efficient with your time and content management. So, Marcelo wrote to me, and this is great. Marcelo says, hey, I'm going to do what you say. Like, I'm going to launch this podcast, and how do I actually do it and leverage that content? So the good news is, if you go to leadx.org and search, or just Google LEADx, how to make a podcast step by step, I have an article that you can just read. And I made a course out of it. I mean, the article will tell you what you need. And then there's a course in the LEADx Academy. I basically spent $1,000 on like the premier How to Be a Podcaster course. Then I spent another $1,000 on another How to Be a Podcaster course. I took everything I learned and put it into a course, of my own that now you can get for $7 a month, or read the free article. And so the short version is, podcasting is great because you interview the experts in your industry. And so it builds your network of influencers. Your brand increases from the halo effect, like their brand is going to wear off on you. And their audience is, as they promote their interview on your show, you start to pick up pieces of their audience. I mean, podcasting is phenomenal for that. And all you need for a podcast is, a MacBook laptop, an AT2020 microphone, USB, just plugs right into the MacBook, nothing fancy. You can use Skype to do audio recordings. You do Skype calls with your guests, and then you record those calls with free software called Ecamm Recorder. I think it's ECAMM. And then you take this recorded audio file, you get it made into a transcript. I send mine to rev.com, rev.com. I think it's $1 a minute or something. There are cheaper ones out there. You now have your podcast. You have a transcript that you can post up on your website as show notes. And then you rewrite that transcript into articles that you can place on your LinkedIn profile, on medium.com, on your own blog. So a 20-minute conversation can get you, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hits or more immediately, and you'll just start attracting an audience very, very quickly. So anyway, Marcelo, good luck with that. People can let me know if you have more questions. Podcasting is such a niche thing. Most of you never want to have a podcast, but email me, hit me up. Again, it's kevin@leadx.org, or on social media. And of course, we're doing a lot more of this support in the LEADx Ambassador Program. And to get into that program, it's a private group on Facebook. Just, post a review on iTunes, send us an email telling us, what name it's under, and then we'll send you an invite into the Ambassador Program. So before I go, next week, Monday is for, manager tips, tools, and rules. And this is going to be part 2 on our first-time manager training, which includes common mistakes. And I think the Tuesday show, I interview the CEO of FreshBooks, Mike McDermott. Very cool story, very cool guy. I mean, he started small business, mid-sized company, accounting software, lives up in the cloud. He started that company in his parents' basement. It's now, a huge company in 100 countries around the world. And so this guy knows a thing or two about management and leadership. And then the very next day, I think it's the Wednesday show, I speak to the CEO of Kronos, Aaron Ain. Kronos has workforce management HR. I think they're like a $600 million a year company. I might be exaggerating a little. 5,000 employees. Just massive company. And he literally, his first job was at Kronos because his brother had started the company. And Aaron Ain worked there while he was in college and was like the janitor. He would clean the bathrooms and stuff. And now he's CEO, and they're doing amazing things. Again, great advice. They've won tons, both FreshBooks and Kronos have won tons of Best Place to Work awards and all the rest. So lots of good secrets there. Before I sign out, I do need to ask you, go leave a quick rating on iTunes for the show. Just go to leadx.org/subscribe. It's going to bounce you to iTunes. You click some stars, that's it. But those stars help us to build our family. And then when you're off of this podcast, open up the browser on your phone, go to leadx.org and just check out what's the free course of the day. And copy the URL if it looks good and send it to your colleagues. Anyone who's looking to get a little bit better every single day, it's like a self-development grab bag. One day it might be how to get to inbox 0. The next day it might be, questions to ask when you interview someone. The next day it might be, about how to run an effective meeting. You never know. One way or another, I'm going to spark 100 million intentional leaders in 10 years. And it does start with you. Leadership is influence. You lead at home, at work, whether you have direct reports or not. The question is, how will you lead today?